help.
Whoa! One side of this world
Was destroyed
because the death bandits
destroyed Şehzade Mustafâ.
The sun
went down on his face.
His divan fell apart.
They tricked the Ottoman Sultan into sin.
This was the translation of few lines of an elegiac Turkish poem by Taşlıcalı Yahya Bey on the tragedy of the execution of Şehzade Mustafâ. Perhaps even the big names of the Ottoman sultans would not have received that much love from their people, which Şehzade Mustafâ had received. No one would have cried that much for any of them, as much they cried on the unjust death of Şehzade Mustafâ. Today in this video, you'll get to know about Şehzade Mustafâ, who was not only the prince of the Ottoman dynasty, but also the prince of the heart of his people. And was he really a traitor? And what was the actual reason, which became the cause of his death? But before going further, it's our humble request to the viewers to subscribe to the channel, and do like and share the video. A few clicks of yours will not cost you anything, but it'll motivate us, and help our channel to grow. We really appreciate and regard your support. And please, give your feedback in the comments section below. On the 6th of August 1515, Şehzade Mustafâ was born in Manisa, while his father Şehzade Süleyman was the governor or Sanjak ruler of Manisa, before ascending to the Ottoman throne. His mother, Mahidevran, was among the 17 women of his harem. He lived as early 5 years at Manisa with his father and mother, until his grandfather, Sultan Selim I, died in 1520. His father succeeded the Ottoman throne, and they moved to the capital of the Ottoman Empire, Istanbul. He spent a period of his later life at the Topkapı Palace. In 1521, Sultan Süleyman lost 2 of his other sons from other women, a 9-year-old, Mahmud, and a toddler, Murad. Şehzade Mustafâ then became the eldest, and chief of his princely generation. He received his education from the best teachers of the empire. When he became young, his father, Sultan Süleyman, asked from one of Şehzade Mustafâ's teacher about his performance. His teacher defined him as, "He is fair like his father, the Sultan of the world, brave and fearless like his grandfather, Yavuz Sultan Selim, intelligent like his great ancestor, Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror, the most brilliant prince the great empire have ever seen." Soon Şehzade Mustafâ proved that these words of his teacher were not the empty praises to please the Sultan. He was a popular prince. During his stay in Istanbul, he influenced all the statesmen and the people. He was a talented fighter even from his childhood, and also much loved by the Janissaries. He was very intelligent, and had a strong political education. Even as a prince, he showed everyone that he would be a great sultan of the empire. His biggest supporters of this path were the Grand Vizier Pagali Ibrahim Pasha, who had been with him since his childhood, and his mother, Mahidevran Sultan. According to old Turkish tradition, all princes have to work as governors in their princely provinces as part of their training. In around 1533, at the age of 19, Şehzade Mustafâ was appointed as the governor or Sanjak Bey of Manisa, and as per Ottoman tradition, his mother, Mahidevran, also left Istanbul to accompany him. He was famous as an honest governor, for his generosity and fair decisions. His management with compassion helped him to win the love of his people. But he did not hesitate to take the heads of those who persecuted the people, took bribes, and did things contrary to the interests of the state. During the years he spent in Manisa, he would go to the Manisa Sultan Mosque every Friday, pray there together, and then address the people, and listen to their problems. Şehzade Mustafâ became very popular in the region. The people living in Manisa were so happy with his administration. Soon the news of their satisfaction spread in the surrounding regions, and people started to migrate to Manisa to live there. Foreign observers of the Ottomans, especially the ambassadors who followed the Ottoman dynastic politics closely, their comments were remarkable about the performance of Şehzade Mustafâ as governor. An ambassador of his time described that, Mustafâ founded a wonderful and glorious court, which is not less than that of his father. Another ambassador wrote that, it is impossible to describe how much his people love him. Everyone wants him to be succeeded the throne. He did many operations to please and for the betterment of his people. He took some decisions without informing his father, Sultan Süleyman, which were not welcomed by him, and he became angry. Şehzade Mustafâ wrote an apology letter to explain the incidents, but Sultan did not even respond to his letter. As the things were going well in Manisa, on the contrary, the things were a bit complicated in Istanbul. The name of Şehzade Mustafâ was praised by everyone, from the highest level of the state to the ordinary citizen on the street. They mentioned his name as the future Sultan. This situation left a negative effect on Sultan Süleyman. He has noticed the power of his eldest son. In many situations, he was also misinformed about Şehzade Mustafâ. So, he started losing his innocence towards his own son, and he started to see him as a great threat, and as a rival to his rule, who could be cause for a revolt in later times. In addition, 2 years after Mustafâ went to Manisa, Pâgali Ibrahim Pasha, who was his biggest supporter, and was protecting and watched him since childhood, was executed in 1536. His mother Mahidevran was also being removed from the harem. Hürrem Sultan, the favorite Haski and the legal wife of Sultan Süleyman, was supposed to be suspected behind these events. She gave birth to 4 sons of Sultan Süleyman, and wanted one of his own sons to ascend to the throne. Among them, the strongest candidate was the eldest, Şehzade Mehmet, who was 6 years younger than Şehzade Mustafâ. Süleyman the Magnificent had a great love for Şehzade Mehmet, his first son from Hürrem Sultan. He often addressed him as the eminent of the princes. Even indirectly, he showed that he wanted him to ascend to the throne. All accumulating events broke out when it was time for Şehzade Mehmet to go to his princely province. Şehzade Mustafâ was taken from Manisa, as if he was exiled, and he was sent to Mustafâ province, Amasya. Mostly in the Ottomans, the princes who were considered the #1 candidate for the throne, were sent to Manisa. This incident became the cause of outrage among the public and the soldiers at the state level. To clarify this situation, Sultan Süleyman the Magnificent had to make a statement. He said that Şehzade Mustafâ sent to Amasya for the security of our eastern borders. But Şehzade Mehmet died suddenly 2 years later in 1543, and the seat at Manisa was empty again. While Şehzade Mustafâ was thinking that he would return to Manisa again, Şehzade Selim, another son of Hürrem Sultan, was appointed as the new governor of Manisa. Şehzade Mustafâ was sent further away from Amasya to the Konya. This was the moment when Şehzade Mustafâ realized that his father had never thought about him to being on the throne. One of the biggest factors in this was Rüstem Pasha, the Grand Vizier of the empire. Hürrem Sultan married her daughter, Mihrimah Sultan, with Rüstem Pasha, and they made a court alliance against Şehzade Mustafâ. Although he strategically started a campaign to defame Şehzade Mustafâ in the capital city of Istanbul, Still everyone thought that Mustafâ is the prince who deserved the throne most. So in order to ascend one of Hürrem Sultan's sons to the throne, it became necessary to eliminate Şehzade Mustafâ. Though, there is no written evidence of such a conspiracy, but it is said that both Hürrem and the Grand Vizier Rüstem Pasha turned Sultan against Mustafâ. The campaign against Iran was the event that ignited all that situation. It was the year 1552, the expedition was to be made against the Safavids in the east. Even though Sultan Süleyman the Magnificent had seen many victories, now he was a tired sultan of over 60 years. For this reason, he did not go on the expedition to be made against the Safavids in the east, and appointed Rüstem Pasha as commander-in-chief of this expedition. When the army, which set out from Istanbul, arrived in the city of Aksaray, there was almost a revolt. According to some sources, Rüstem Pasha sent back one of Sultan Süleyman's most trusted men, to report the Sultan about the situation. He was informed as, all the soldiers said that, the Sultan should have been with us, do they think us mercenaries? They said that if Sultan Süleyman could not head of the army, then it was the time to put a younger prince on the throne so he could lead the army. The Janissaries had clearly stated that they wanted to see Şehzade Mustafâ as Sultan, otherwise they would not go one step further from Aksaray. Actually, it was like a small-scale rebellion. Rüstem also spread rumors that Şehzade Mustafâ had provoked them to this non-receptive idea. This incident must have reminded the memories of Süleyman the Magnificent, because his father, Yavuz Sultan Selim, overthrew his grandfather, Bayezid II, in the same way with the support of the army, and poisoned him while sending him to Dimitoka. He was now experiencing the same events that he had personally seen when he was young. So in anger he believed that Mustafâ is planning all that to claim the throne. However, Şehzade Mustafâ and those who supported him were also misled at the same time. The people next to him said, "Our Sultan will leave the throne to you, but Rüstem Pasha is preventing this." They said, "You better grow a beard so that your father understands your intention, and leaves the throne to you," and few other things like that. It was forbidden for the princes to grow beards, because this action was a sign of the Sultanate. Şehzade Mustafâ was deceived by these misdirections. On top of that, the fake letters written by Rüstem Pasha on behalf of Şehzade Mustafâ were added. The Venetian ambassador, who lived at that time, tells about the fraudulent letter. By seeing that all the situations were going against them day by day, Rüstem Pasha secretly used the Şehzade Mustafâ's stamp. By using Mustafâ's name, he wrote a letter to the Iranian ruler Damas. In this fake letter, Şehzade declared that he would establish a close friendship with Shah Tahmasp, and said that if possible, he wanted to marry his daughter. Rüstem Pasha sent this fake letter to Iran, which he wrote on behalf of Şehzade Mustafâ. In the same way, he seized the reply letter written by the Shah to the prince. Rüstem Pasha had a huge trump card. He would show these fake letters to the Sultan when necessary, and turn the end of the Şehzade Mustafâ. According to historians, the following summer in 1553, Rüstem Pasha asked Mustafâ to join his father's army during the campaign against the Safavid-Persia war. Mustafâ accepted his offer, and assembled his army to join his father. On another side, he warned and persuaded Sultan Süleyman that Mustafâ was coming to kill him. Sultan considered this as a threat, and he ordered the execution of his son. Şehzade Mustafâ came to his father's camp with his own army under his command. While he was walking to his father's tent, he was told many times that it was a game, and that he would be executed, but he did not listen to anyone, and walked to his death step by step. He entered in the tent of his father, wearing a white dress which was symbolizing his innocence. But inside, 7 deaf and dumb executioners were waiting, and they attacked him. Mustafâ tried to escape from the executioners, but he was killed by Mahmud Aga, Rüstem Pasha's right hand. the future of the Ottomans, Şehzade Mustafa died at the age of 38, on the orders of his own father. Because it was thought that he was collaborating with the Shah of Iran, the body of Şehzade was taken out of the tent by placing it on an Iranian carpet, and exhibited to the soldiers. After his death, the Janissaries and Anatolian soldiers of Mustafâ rebelled against the decision of Sultan. They supported Mustafâ because he deserved succession as per Ottoman traditions, and because he was a good warrior. In protest, the Janissaries did not even eat that day. After the protests of the army, Sultan Süleyman dismissed Rustem Pasha from his rank as Grand Vizier, and sent him back to Istanbul. Mustafâ's execution caused the unrest in Anatolia, because people loved his braveness and generosity, and were seeing him as the next Sultan. While the body of Şehzade Mustafâ was being taken to Bursa, the tears flooded in every settlement he passed. Some people started to say that, if Şehzade Mustafâ not then his son should be on throne. So, just at the age of 6 or 7, the only surviving son of Şehzade Mustafâ, Prince Mehmed, was also executed by the order of Sultan. Some historians stated that, later Sultan Süleyman even blamed himself for this unfair execution of his son. He wanted to hold his son's funeral prayer himself but could not do it because of crying. Mustafâ had been accused on charges of planning to dethrone his father, which was never proved later. Şehzade Mustafâ was buried in a mausoleum in Bursa. Sultan Süleyman also conveys his pain in the poem that he wrote for his son, Şehzade Mustafâ, under his pen name, MERSİYESİ.
Ey oğul, gözlerimden aka dursun, durmasın yaşım benim. Ya ne için saklarım şimdi görü başım benim? İçtüğüm hüni ciğerdir, yedigüm derdü elem, dürlü dürlü matbağı dilde pişer aşım benim. Ey felek, çarhın bozulsun olasın ağır harap, nitekim odları yaktın bu içim taşım benim. Çektiğim bağrı gamı, çarhın katları çekmeye, gelmedi bu vadin mihnette padaşım benim. Ey muhibbi, ta ölünce iş bu derde çare.